Philadelphia is steep in broadcast history. From the early pioneering days of broadcasting in the 1920s to today, Philadelphia has always been at the forefront. The Delaware Valley has been home to some of the best local programming in the country, starting with the early soap operas and children's shows to pioneering the best news formats in the country. Much of it all began right here. From radio announcers to television personalities, cameramen to directors, these were the broadcasters that burned out the airwaves. These were the pioneers of Philadelphia broadcasting.
Al Meltzer, let's start from the beginning. Where are you from?
Syracuse, New York. Two blocks from Syracuse University.
And how did you get the name Big Al? What is this? Was it something that you grew up with?
I grew up with it immediately. Yeah, we were in the fourth grade, and my cousin who was in the fourth grade with me, and about 4 or 5 other guys. We used to go to the Saturday afternoon movies. Well, you had them here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you stayed 3 hours and popcorn the whole 9 yards. Well, the problem was that I was the tallest kid, not only in my class, but I think almost taller than the 8th graders, whatever that means.
So you became Big Al all of a sudden.
Big Al, yeah.
You played a little basketball, didn't you?
A little basketball. I'd like to think it's a little more than a little basketball. Yeah, I was an all-city in Syracuse. You know why? Because I'm 6'4". 6'4" is big.
Was big.
Oh,
now you'd be a guard. Then you were a center, right?
Yeah, right. And, you know, one thing leads to another, and I had no idea what I was going to do until I got that wonderful letter that says I have been offered a scholarship to my brother's college, St. Lawrence University in New York.
So you played ball at St. Lawrence?
Yes,
basketball.
I did, yes.
Then you get out. It's the Korean War. What happened to you?
The Korean War? You're kidding me. There was a Korean War.
There was a Korean War.
I'm in college and I've got a roommate who wants to be in broadcasting. I had no idea about anything. He says one day to me, he says, "You want to do my show for me? I've got a date with a girl I've been trying to date for a while." I said, "Yeah, but what do I do?" He said, "Well, you know, you just turn the knobs and you talk." And I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll try that." So I did. It was, you know, who cares? Except 2 weeks later, I get a call from his instructor. Say, "Who was that guy that did your show?" He says, "My roommate." I said, "Well, what else does he do?" He says, "He's going to be a dentist." Okay? And that was about it. Until 2 weeks later after that, I get a phone call that I won the prize.
Great.
I won the prize. And you know what they gave me?
I have no idea.
Well, I didn't smoke at the time. You know, I couldn't, I was a jock. It was old gold cigarettes.
Give you cartons of those.
Cartons of them, yeah.
Wonderful.
I gave them away. I became a very big guy in the fraternity house.
So then you had to go into the service because there was a draft, right?
Well, yeah, I graduated in June, and about the middle of June, I get this wonderful, wonderful notice from the United States of America, and I'm going to work for Uncle Sam. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, what am I going to do? I can't go to, you know, I want to go to dental school. He said, "Not for a while." So I decided, if I'm going to go and I'm not going to go, I better get going with the United States of America. I don't want to make them mad. So I thought, well, maybe, just maybe, I'll, you know, try it out, see how it goes. And it went pretty well.
So you went in the Air Force.
Oh, I enlisted in the Air Force,
Correct.
which is 4 years. And I missed the 2 years of being drafted.
Wonderful.
One of the great moves.
And you were still going to be a dentist. What changed your mind? What happened to get you away from dentistry and get you into broadcasting?
I wanted to fly. So I went to flight school, and I was about a month away from being assigned. And where do you get assigned to? Well, where do you think you're assigned? and you know, what do you mean? I don't want to go. I mean, I want to fly. I don't want to fly in a war. He said, well, this is the whole group sitting in this, what do you call them? On the base theater, okay? And we figured this is it, we're going to get our assignment. And he said, well, here's the deal. We will give you a choice. You want to get a choice? I said, I'd love to get a choice. He said, well, we're going to send you back home in the active reserve, and then you can do whatever you want. It didn't work out quite that way. I got home, I met a friend who met a friend, a guy I went to high school, and I talked a little bit about what I was doing and messed around. And he said, we got a brand new TV station coming into town right now.
This is in Syracuse.
In Syracuse, yeah. And so he puts me under the, what do they call them here?
Klieg lights?
Klieg lights, okay. And well, talked to me for about an hour. And, you know, that was about it. A few weeks later, I get a phone call from the guy that answered me. I lied like you know what. So he puts me on the air, the 11 o'clock sports on a real television station. And I immediately came to the conclusion, I ain't never gonna become a dentist.
Great.
That's it.
Where was your big break? Was it here in Philadelphia when you started working for Channel 17?
No, first I came here for Channel 6. They had just changed their format. And I worked. I was called up by someone here at Channel 6 in Philadelphia. I was going to do sports on the weekend. And that didn't work out because one thing or another. And after 7 months, they told me, and I'm not going to get a job doing what I wanted to do. Two guys are having lunch with me, and they said, what's going on? So I told them, and they said, come with us. I said, what do you mean, come with you? A new station is opening up, UHF. I said, yeah, that's great. I'm thinking, what in the, you know. So I go down, and I spend an hour with the guy, and I gave him everything I ever did or didn't do in broadcasting. So he ain't gonna pay me a great deal of money, half of what I was making over at Channel 6. And let's see, that was 1970. I don't work there anymore. They call me up from Channel 3. And they give me a steady job at Channel 3. And I worked there for about 7 years. And I end up as a year in Chicago. And after 1 year in Chicago, I came back to Philadelphia. And I worked there for 20 years.
Channel 10.
Yes.
So you were at 6, 3, and then 10.
Yes.
And in between that, you worked at Channel 17.
Yes, I did. And I also, by the way, they opened up another TV station in Philadelphia called UHF. Okay? You ever hear of UHF?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I didn't. I didn't know what they were talking
Yes,
about.
you had to have a box on your TV to get.
So they offered me a job at half the price I was making, not doing a job at the other station.
Tell me about the Channel 17, doing the Big Five. Was that a big thrill for you?
I had no idea. I knew sports, but I had no idea what was going on in Philadelphia. And I hit the jackpot. 3 doubleheaders a week at the Palestra. 3. And the station needed something in order to get viewers, which they did. They sold the place out. Everybody wanted to go watch Big 5 basketball.
That's when everybody knew who Big Al was.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helped.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, no question.
That put you on your way to big fame, right?
Yes, it was. And then a lot of things happened to me after that. I was doing everything that had never been done before on local television, pretty much. And part of that is that they wanted to carry everything you could possibly carry, and the other stations were carrying a little bit. They had a little bit of baseball. They eventually got baseball. I did some, not play-by-play, but I did some before and after stuff. And one thing led to another, and they kept making phone calls. Where do you want to go? I said, what do you mean where I want to go? Well, I get a call from Buffalo. I went to Buffalo for 5 or 6 years. And one thing that I never dreamt of, they said, well, we'd like you to take care of everything.
Tell me about football in Buffalo. O.J. Simpson. What was that like?
O.J., I'm trying to remember who he was.
Was he a nice guy when he was
was
with
a
Buffalo?
great guy. I'm not just doing it because I knew him. He was a great guy.
You really enjoyed covering him.
Oh, are you kidding? Of course.
Was he one of those guys that kind of hid after the game, or was he the guy that stood in front of the cameras and owned up to whatever he did?
We would go and play a game in Boston. All right? We all get on the bus. And they say, where's O.J.? O.J. is in the locker room. What's he doing? He's talking to a kid who does the newspaper for the school he goes to and covers football. And that's the way he was. Of course he covered football. He did not leave until every phone had rung, everyone had asked their question, and everything else.
Then there was Wilt Chamberlain. What was he like?
He was unique. And people think they knew him, but you had to be with him a little bit, not just with basketball. We won here, as everyone knows, in '67. The Sixers won the big one. Okay? I'll tell you the first story. I am going to go to the first away game, and I get out of the bus or whatever we were in from the airport, and I get out of the bus and I get a wiggle. Hey, kid. He didn't call me kid. I was older than he was.
Tell me what you remember best about interviewing Wilt Chamberlain, especially when you went out to the coast to see him after he retired.
I got to give you the last story, or the first story for the last story. What he said to me was, come with me, sit, and we sat in the back seat and we talked about a lot of things. The guy comes in who was driving the cab, and he says, what do you mean? The guy that drove the cab, he said, he didn't pay me. All right? So then I finally go in and I go to the stand where they sell newspapers. And he's there taking all the newspapers under his arm, goes to the elevator, and he doesn't pay him either. And I said, wait a minute, I may be in trouble here. Not that I was, but I didn't expect it from a guy who was making the most money of any athlete in the United States. 100,000, yeah. He made the kind of money that no one else in the world was making as an athlete. Then we'd go out of town or something, and we'd go into the hotel or wherever we were staying, and everybody would be there for a few minutes or an hour or whatever, and you just wanted to sit down and hear him talk. He is, or was, unfortunately, a bright, bright guy.
He was.
Oh, he was. He was bright in so many ways, not just basketball and whatever, but he knew a lot about a lot of things.
Was he the best basketball player you have ever covered?
By far.
Okay. By far.
By far.
You also worked at Channel 3, and people called that tenure Camelot. Why was that?
Well, when they sent me over there, or when I went over there, they also brought in a couple other people. And they wanted to start kind of all over again or whatever they were doing. And they wanted to keep me there so that I could handle everything for them. And I figured, okay, why not? They were going to pay me more money. But as it turned out, we worked with, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 of us. It was...
Vince Leonard?
Yeah.
You, Custer?
Me, Bill Custer, Vince Leonard,
Jessica Savage.
Jessica Savage. All right?
Mm-hmm.
We apparently had a reputation around the country. For what reasons, they took advantage of it, and they gave themselves this little number that they were going to call us, and it lasted for a long, long time.
Then you ended up in Chicago. How did you like Chicago?
1 year.
I guess you didn't like Chicago that much.
Let's put it this way. They talk about snow in Philadelphia. Wrong. They're just screwing around. I mean, and one thing led to another, and I finally said, I can't take this anymore.
So then you came to Channel 10, worked there for 20 years.
Yeah.
What was the highlights? What were some of the highlights of Channel 10?
I wonder where I start from.
How about the interview with Al Holland after the
No,
Phillies
I don't-
won
no.
the World Series?
No.
Were you stunned when he used those profanities live on TV?
No, I wasn't. I was absolutely dumbfounded. Okay?
Yes.
I found out another thing about sports. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Sports has a language all of its own. And when you talk to an athlete, he'll use it sometime. Well, I found out sometime. And all I can say is, oh man, you know how it gets this way when you've done something wrong and you want to leave right away? I did. I got back to the station, you know what happened?
No.
They applauded me as I came into the room.
Because you handled it so well.
No, I got scared to death.
But you did handle it. I remember it distinctly.
Yeah,
Thinking, boy, am I glad that's not me.
I guess so.
Yeah. What did you like covering the most? I mean, here you are in Philadelphia, the Flyers, the Sixers, the Eagles, and the Phillies. What did you like the most?
What did I like the most? Football. It just was a great sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I did the Buffalo Bills for 9 years, by the way. Oh, just in case somebody wonders, what do you mean you were working in Philadelphia? I said, yeah, but I never told anybody, and every weekend I was gone for 9 years, and did it on the
QT.
well, yeah,
Yeah, you
QT.
did. Yeah.
QT. I didn't tell
During the
anybody.
week, you were a Philadelphia sportscaster. On weekends, you did O.J. Simpson and the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
That's an interesting little scenario in itself. Not very many people would be allowed to do that.
What if you don't tell anybody? They're not going to
They'll never
know.
Tell me about the football players that you liked interviewing the most.
Football players, I told you about O.J., correct?
Aside from O.J.
Aside from O.J.,
Buddy Ryan.
Buddy Ryan. It's Buddy Ryan, you're right. He was not playing ball at the time. He would just come in here to become the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, wasn't it?
Right.
Okay. Now, in liking a lot of the people that you meet, you know, all of a sudden one day I turn on the television in New York, and I see this show is on the air. I said, wait a minute, I think I know him. And he did a show for us once a week on Tuesdays, and let's see, wait a minute. Mike and Mike. Do you know the Mike and Mike show?
Radio show, yes.
Yeah, well, they do the TV show too now. Golick. And somebody else named Mike. And then every time I would turn around somewhere, I would get a phone call from somebody who wondered whether I could do something for them, which I enjoyed very much, because whatever happened for a reason. I retired in 99. That's 1999. And the one thing that I liked the most was, for 5 years, I freelanced because it was nothing but sports.
You're talking about working for CSN.
CSN.
Comcast. You enjoyed that the most because that was only sports.
You walked in the building and they always said, hello. And every guy would get there and girl would get there together sooner or later during the day and spend a little time talking to each other. It was absolutely wonderful.
You did have quite a career. Did you ever have any regrets? Did you ever think, maybe I should have been a dentist?
No.
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 But no fun at all.
None whatsoever. Look, let's, in one form or another, I, by accident, became what I became, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And it was the kind of thing that you say to yourself, hey, this is something else, right? Because if you love sports, why not do it all the time? And that's, when I worked for them, that's what I wanted to do all the time. I never went with ESPN, but I went with these guys here. And it's a pleasure when you're working for people who are doing nothing but what you're doing.
You got paid to do things that most people pay to be at. You were the envy of most sports fans.
I'd like to think so.
I know so.
Yeah.
I know so.
Yeah, because you're my best friend.
I know so because I was one of those guys that had paid to go and see some of these events. It was great. It must have been a great run. You know, I was just thinking, you worked at Channel 6, you worked at Channel 17, you worked at Channel 3, and you worked at Channel 10. That's an amazing
Well, I also,
career.
in Chicago, I worked for Channel 5.
Yeah, Chicago is something else, but I'm just in Philadelphia. You worked just about every place you could work.
Here's my feeling when people ask me, you know, how do you like things, how do your job, everything else? I said, you got to look at it this way. I'm the luckiest man in the world. I mean this now, I never left the driveway where I was living and said, I don't think I want to work today. Because as you know, I mean, hey, you're television. And you're a little bit more than television. Because you've done work for me, gone out of town, covered ball games and things.
Yes, we have.
What do you think?
I think that you had the best job in the world, is what I think. Like I said, you went to events for nothing. You got paid to go to the World Series, the Super Bowl, Stanley Cup.
Keep
Anybody
going,
else
keep
would
going.
pay anything to be there. And you got paid to do it, and you loved it. What more could you say?
That's true. That's true. No man can work a job and love it the way I love mine. That's all. And even when the days were bad, they were always better than anything else.
Bottom line, big guy, when you look back, what did you enjoy the most?
Well, it wasn't the fact that I was working in television as much. It was the people. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Even you can say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were we're only a few of us, no matter how you look at it. Add up everybody who's in television in this city right now. How much is it? Right?
True.
And they're all just loving the game. So you can't complain.
No, you can't. Especially if you look at your career. How long have you been in the business itself? When did you really start?
50 years.
50 years?
Yeah.
My God.
I wrote a book. 50 years. Big Al.
You know what? You've been retired since what, 99?
Yeah. Well, fully retired.
People still know who you are. Do you find that amazing?
Want me to tell you something?
Sure.
Okay. After I had retired for a while, and then full time, I just wasn't going to do anything anymore. I am in a store, an Acme store, and I'm pushing a cart. And I'm looking around. Suddenly someone comes around, and what happens? It's this lady pushing a cart in my direction. Okay? I don't know. And she's hollering, "Hey, hey." And what's the matter? I didn't steal anything. And she comes around the cart. She takes her finger and stabs me right here. Okay?
And says?
And says, "Weren't you Al Meltzer?"
How do you answer that?
I punched her out.
I know when people say that to me, I'm always stunned. I think I still am. I'm not really sure, but I think I still am.
Well, I still like it when some people, wherever I am here, something would say, "Hey, Big Al." It makes you feel good, like you're connected. But no one will come closer to me ever than the people I worked with. It just, I didn't become a dentist. I didn't become what else didn't I become? A pilot. One of those guys who drive airplanes. Try to think of what the hell else.
Do you think about how proud your family is of you? You ever think about that?
Yeah, I do. Because every time I think about something, I always say to myself, I could have been doing that instead, or I would have done something instead. And if I didn't, what would I be doing? And I'll tell you one thing, I would not have been a dentist. Okay? No, it's a great profession.
I don't think you could have been a dentist.
No, I couldn't have been.
I don't think you could have inflicted that kind of pain on a daily basis.
No, you just don't do what you're doing. And yeah, I think about it, but I don't take it as like I'm not a star. Believe me, I never came to the conclusion that I was a star. I figure I got a job. I got a damn good job, and I like it, and I've made a fair amount of money at it, and I live in a city that's as good as it gets.
How would you like people to remember you?
Takes a while for me to think about this. I'm at year one now, and it's 50 years.
50
right?
years. How would you like them to remember you?
It's a good guy. Yeah, it's a good guy. And the one thing I would always say is, well, didn't you like, being on the air and all this? And I would always say, No, it's the people I work with. Those are the guys and the girls.
Well, I'll tell you how I remember you. I'll always remember you as being a real good guy, a really genuine human being who always cared about the people he worked with or the people he met on the street. That's the Al Meltzer I'll always remember.
Well, I'm going to, in case people don't understand, when I mention the fact that you have another name that I, come on.
Yeah, but this isn't about me. It's about
No,
you.
no. Tell them.
You always called me Bill Sports Baldini.
Sports Waldini.
Yeah.
You're one of the many that I've worked for. And no regrets of any kind. And as long as I'm saying nice things about Philadelphia, I mean it. All right?
I know you do.
Okay.
And everybody thinks you're this big blowhard, big guy. You're really the most gentle guy I know. I think that's what would really surprise people.
Her name. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So there you go. I've made some moves, I have made others, and maybe they're not great, but I don't regret many or any of them.
Big Guy, it's been a pleasure knowing you. And it's been a pleasure watching you on the air all these years.
And me
so
to
thank you very much.
Me to you, by the way.